Good morning. So here we have to continue. Okay. So I have already discussed the chapter name is the respiratory system, right? So we have to move forward, and some things are remaining in the respiratory system. So firstly we have to cover that, and in the last chapter of the cell functions and the cell structures, no? So there is something also remaining topics which we have to discuss, like types of the cells. Okay, we have to discuss about the prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell both. Okay, so come to the respiratory system remaining topics. The topic is the types of respiration. Fine, that means we know that all the living organisms are performing the respiration, but here is types of the respiration is also. How many types of respiration is occurs in the living organism, how they perform, and what kind of the products or byproducts is created after the respiration. You know, respiration is the process not only for the carrying the oxygen. This is the process for the oxidation of the glucose molecule for producing the energy actually, right? So we know that the oxygen is required for the respiration, but here some cases in the absence of oxygen the organisms also perform the respiration. How? Let's discuss. Okay, the first is the here is the types of the respiration. Here are the two types of respiration. The first one is the aerobic respiration and second one is the anaerobic respiration. Fine. Aerobic respiration, as this is given by the name, this is the aerobic respiration. What does mean the aerobic? Aerobic means that is oxygen or air. Fine. That means the respiration occurs in the presence of air. In the presence of air is considered as the aerobic respiration. It is the process in which intake of molecular oxygen and release of CO2 occur simultaneously. That means in the respiration, in the aerobic respiration, the gaseous exchange takes place. Gaseous exchange, that means the CO2 is produced in the body, and after intaking the oxygen from outside of the body, the oxygen and CO2 is exchanged. Okay, in particular specific manner, but in case of the human beings we know that oxygen and CO2 both are exchanged in the alveoli. Okay, alveoli, that is gas chamber, remembering, right? So molecular oxygen and release of CO2 occurs in simultaneously. This is aerobic respiration. Please remember, aerobics, that means in the presence of oxygen. Okay, that means without O2 the aerobic respiration never exists. Fine. Okay, aerobic respiration occurs in two ways. There is also the ways is also is here how the aerobic respiration is occurs. Fine. The first way is the direct respiration. What does mean by the direct respiration? Direct respiration, that means oxygen is exchanged with the CO2s without involving any expiratory organs. We know that in the human beings so many respiratory organs are responsible for the exchange of the gas. We have already discussed about the nostrils, about the nasal cavities, about the nose, about the pharynx, about the larynx, about the trachea, then bronchi, bronchioles and bronchial tree, alveoli, and we studied that there in the alveoli the gaseous exchange takes place. That means O2 and CO2 is exchanged together. But in case of the direct respiration, without use of respiratory organs, exchange of the oxygen with CO2. Okay, this is the sign of with C upon bar. This is the with. But please remember, don't use this type of abbreviations. Okay, in the mains examination answer writing. Fine. Don't use, never ever. Fine. So here is the example, direct respiration. Example of the direct respiration is the aerobic bacteria, protistas. Okay, yeah, protist. Yeah, plants, coelenterata, arthropodas. Okay, what are the arthropodas? What are the coelenterata? This is the protista plants. Aerobic bacteria, that means the bacteria which used the oxygen for the respiration. That means the oxygen is very need. Oxygen is a need for the respiration in the bacteria. It's called the aerobic bacteria. Protistas are those organisms actually which created in earth very first stage. Okay, in the primary stage the protistas are created. Fine. So plant cell is also performing some respiration. That's the reason they are using oxygen. They are using oxygen and oxygen using, that means inhaling, okay, and exhaling the carbon dioxide, exhaling the CO2, and that is why we know that in the night actually, okay, in the time of night we don't go to sleep at the beneath of any tree, right, because they are releasing CO2 like us. Fine. Coelenterators are those organisms, those animalia kingdom members in which body a middle body cavity is found. Okay, that means middle body cavities are here. Fine. Next one is the orthopodas. Orthopodas, that means ortho means it's a paired legs. Okay, paired, and podas is a podas is a leg. Okay, that means the animals, the creatures, the member of animalia kingdom which have the paired legs, okay, which have the paired legs is considered as the arthropods. Fine. Second one is the second phase is the indirect respiration. Indirect respiration with the aid of special organs. Okay, in human beings the aid of the respiratory organs is facilitated the process of respiration. Fine. So here is the organ like the skin, yeah, buccopharyngeal or living cells, gills, lungs, blood, etc. Fine. That means so many organisms, so many living organisms are using their skin for the respiration. In their body, the particular special respiratory organs like lungs are not present, so they are using the skin, whole skin for the respiration. Okay, that means through the skin they are exchanging the O2 and CO2. Okay, buccopharyngeal. What is the buccopharyngeal? Okay, that means the that means buccal cavity. Okay, what is the buccal cavity? Nothing. Buccal cavity is simply this is the mouth cavity. Okay, it's a mouth cavity. Fine. Pharyngeal, we know that, and we have already discussed about the pharynx. Okay, some cells are present in the buccal cavity, okay, and in the pharynx they are responsible for the respiration. Okay, gills, we know that the fish or species are using the gills for the respiration process. Okay, so lungs and blood, it's the best example of the lungs and blood. All the mammals and including human being also, we are also using our lungs and we are using the blood to carry the oxygen and carbon dioxide, and lungs for the providing the place for the gaseous exchange between the oxygen and the carbon dioxide. Okay, so example of the indirect respiration is here: amphibians, annelids, molluscs, reptiles, birds, mammals, etc. Okay, what are the amphibians? If we are talking and if we find there is a word, and word is the amphibian. So what does mean by the amphibian? Amphibian are those organisms or those creatures which can live in both condition. That means they can live in water bodies, also they can live at the land habitat. Okay, so these are considered as a amphibians. Examples of the amphibians like frog. Frogs are the best examples of, frogs and tortoise also. Okay, turtles, fine. So they are amphibians. Okay, they can live in water bodies as well as they can live at the land habitat. Fine. Next is the annelids. What are the annelids? The member of the Annelida phylum is the earthworm. Okay, they are also using the lungs and blood, gills or buccopharyngeal. That means कि special or specific particular respiratory organs are present in these members. Okay, molluscas. What is the meaning of molluscas? Molluscas are those water, actually they are water creature especially, and normally they are water creature, but they can also find at the land habitat also. So molluscas are those on which you can say that the upper body surface is covering with a calcium carbonate cover. Fine, calcium carbonate covers is covering its body. They are considered as the molluscas, like the water snail. Water snail, it's the best example. Fine. There is the reptiles. What is the name? Reptiles? Reptiles, they are snakes and like Komodo dragons. Okay, so monitor lizards. Fine. So examples of the reptiles. That means when they move, their thoracic region, or you can say their thorax, is touched to the land surface. Fine. So they are considered as the reptiles. So birds, there is so many birds, and the mammals. Mammals are those which found mammary glands. Okay, mammary glands. What is the function of mammary glands? Mammary glands is for the producing milk, and all the mammals is performing the breastfeeding to their child. Fine. So they are considered as the mammals. Fine. Okay. Now second type of the respiration is the anaerobic respiration. First was the aerobic and second was the anaerobic. That means in the type of the respiration, in the absence of oxygen. Fine. In anaerobic reaction is performed, occurs in the absence of oxygen. It is the process in which energy is produced without the use of oxygen. In this, the organisms that carry out anaerobic respiration may or may not produce CO2. Listen very carefully and please attention on this, that first was the aerobic reaction. Okay, and in the aerobic reaction, the CO2 is produced. Okay, and this CO2 is meant for the exchange with oxygen. Okay, that means after the completion of the aerobic reaction, the CO2 is produced mandatory. But in case of anaerobic respiration, this is not mandatory. It may or may not produce carbon dioxide, that is CO2. Okay. Here the best example of the anaerobic reaction are found in so many organisms, and especially the organisms which are unicellular in nature actually. Okay, mostly, not every, but mostly they are unicellular in nature. That means here is example is yeast. Yeast is what? Yeast is a fungus. Okay, this is a fungus which are using in bakery industries. Okay, fine. We are using in bakery industries. Okay, yeast produce the ethanol and carbon dioxide by oxidizing glucose without oxygen. That means if you are using yeast, it produces the oxygen. It produces the carbon dioxide and the ethanol. Okay, after the oxidation, after the degradation of the carbohydrate. Fine. Like here is the reaction. C6H12O6, this is the glucose, here is the yeast, and C2H5OH, ethanol, plus carbon dioxide and plus energy. That means releasing the carbon dioxide and plus energy also. This is the ethanol. But always remember, the anaerobic respiration is oftenly not completing the complete oxidation of the glucose. Fine. Okay. So this is the reaction, and if we are using any bacterias, anaerobic bacterias, and then glucose is converted into the lactic acid. Okay, converted into the lactic acid. 2CH3CHOH, COOH, this is the formula, and plus energy. So here CO2 is not produced. CO2 is not produced. Okay, but here CO2 is produced. Okay, fine. CO2 is not produced here, but here CO2 is produced. Yeast is producing the CO2 after the degradation of glucose in the ethanol and carbon dioxide. But here the bacteria, some bacteria are performing the anaerobic respiration, and they degrade the glucose molecule in the lactic acid, and in this case CO2 is not produced. Fine. Next is here anaerobic respiration is also known as fermentation. This process is called the fermentation. What is the fermentation? Fermentation is arising from actually Hindi words kinvan, no? Like to degrade or to spoil anything, that means sarjana like. Fine. So it's a kind of fermentation. So here bacteria is also performing the fermentation, and we know that we are using the sugar cane juice, okay, and making the acetic acid, and making CH3COOH, acetic acid. Okay, so this process is also example of fermentation. We are using fresh sugarcane juice, and after the Acetobacter bacteria. Which bacteria? Acetobacter bacteria. This is the important question. You can say Acetobacter. Please remember this. This is a very important thing. So many times in examinations, the questions are given from this particular bacteria. Okay, which bacteria is responsible for the production of the acetic acid? Acetic acid. Okay. So here bacteria name is the Acetobacter bacteria. Fine. Acetobacter. Okay, so here is our glucose, and there is examples of some reactions. Now first one is that this is the glucose molecule. Okay, this is converted into the pyruvate plus ATP. This is energy. Okay. Firstly, glucose is converted into the pyruvate, but when the lack of oxygen is here, that means anaerobic reaction is performed and yeast is present here. Yeast is responsible for the anaerobic reaction. Then this pyruvate is converted into the ethanol and carbon dioxide. But in the presence of oxygen in mitochondria. This is performed in the mitochondria. Fine. Here is carbon dioxide is produced, plus water is also here produced, and plus energy in the form of what? ATPs. Fine. Again, lack of oxygen. Some human cells is also performing the anaerobic reactions. Fine. So many cells are performing aerobic reaction, but some cells are also performing the anaerobic reactions, like our muscle cells. Fine. When we are doing exercise, okay, you realized when we are doing exercise, after some times we feel tiredness. But why? This is the very common phenomena, and behind this a reason is here. The reason is this anaerobic reaction. Okay, this is glucose molecule. Okay, and after the completion of full oxidation of glucose molecule, the ATP is produced. ATP is produced. This ATP is used as a source of energy. Fine. But in case of the muscular cells or muscle cells, okay, this pyruvate is not completely oxidized due to the absence of oxygen. Okay. Why? When we doing exercise, the need of oxygen is get increases. Okay. That means the requirement of oxygen is increases. In that case, so many common things you can observe that your respiratory rate is get increases, your heartbeat is increases, fine, your BP is also increases during the exercise, okay, your temperature is also, body temperature is also increases, but in that case no complete and fulfill supply is from the outside of the oxygen, okay, oxygen supply get the disturbed, okay, in that case the our body is need energy, okay, during exercise. In that case the muscle cells is starting the anaerobic reactions, okay, they are starting oxidize the glucose, okay, they are starting oxidize the glucose, but due to the absence of oxygen the complete oxidation of the glucose molecule is not happened. In this case the pyruvate is converted into the lactic acid, and due to this lactic acid we feel tiredness, okay. So many times these questions have been asked in the various examination, and question is that like by which acid, okay, by formation of which acid inside the body we feel the tiredness, okay. So here acid name is the lactic acid. Which acid? Lactic acid. Please remember this and please note this. Fine. Okay. Now, okay, fine. So this was the last topic of our respiratory system, and we have already discussed the disease related to the respiratory system, and hope your all the doubts are cleared in this respiratory system chapter. Fine. So we have to discuss some remaining topics from the cell structure and function, okay. There is a single requirement. Okay, in the chapter of cell we have to cover some left topics, okay, fine. So types of cell, types of cell, check, fine. According to the presence of cell in the nature, we can divide it into only two types actually, fine. How types? How many types? Two types. The first one is the animal cell and second one is the plant cell, okay, animal cell and plant cell. Fine. The cells found in the animal bodies is considered as the animal cell, and the cells is responsible for the development and growth of the plants is considered as the plant cell. Fine. So what are the basic differences between the animal cell and plant cells? The differences are as follows, like animal cells are not autotrophs, they are dependent on others, okay. That means they are not producing the food materials by themselves, okay. They are taking the food from the outside sources and then using this for the energy production. But in case of plant cell, they produced food materials by themselves, fine. Second one is the, if we are looking towards the morphology of the cells, then we find that in the animal cells, cell wall is not present, okay, not present, but cell membrane is present. Fine, but cell membrane is present. In this case, in plant cell, cell wall and cell membrane both are present. Fine, cell membrane and cell wall both are present, and cell wall is made up of which substances? Normally cellulose. Fine. Next one is the, in animal cell, chloroplast, in animal cell, chloroplast is absent. Fine, but in plant cell, chloroplast is present. Okay, chloroplast is present. They are soft in nature, okay, but they are roughed, okay. Next, they do not perform the process of photosynthesis. Fine, but plant cells perform photosynthesis, okay, and respiration as well. They only perform the respiration, okay. Examples: all animals have animal cells, okay, and all plants have plant cells, okay. That means these are the basic differences between the animal cell and plant cells, okay. This is the classification of cells according to the presence in the nature, but in different basis we can also the classify cells into two types, and the types are like, there is two types. The first one is the prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells, okay. Prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. What is the meaning of pro? That means primitive, okay. And what is the karyotic? This is the karyon. Karyon means, we have already discussed, karyon means it's a nucleus, Okay, that means we have discussed, right, the study of the nucleus and nuclear organs. Okay, it's considered as the karyology. So this is the prokaryotic cells and this is the eukaryotic cells. So primitive karyons containing cells and the U is a some modern nucleus. Okay, the old one and the modern one. This is only classified on the basis of the maturity or matured or developed cell organelles. Fine, like this. In the prokaryotic cells, the nucleus is not present. Nucleoid is the nuclear region. Okay, present. That means कि the nuclear region, nucleoid, is present in the prokaryotic cell, in which the organelles of the nucleus, yeah, you can say the parts of the nucleus are not completely evolved or matured. But in case of the eukaryotic cells, the fully matured or developed nucleus is present. Fine. Okay, in the prokaryotic cell, some cell organelles are not present. This is not some, this is most of the actually. Okay, most of the cell organelles are not present. But in the eukaryotic cells, cell organelles are present. As well as they are well developed also. Okay, like in case of the prokaryotic cells, mitochondria, Golgi body, okay, then endoplasmic reticulums are not present. Okay, in case of eukaryotic, all are present. Fine, all are present. Next one is here, like in case of the prokaryotic cells, the nucleolus is absent. But in the eukaryotic cells, nucleolus is present. Fine. In prokaryotic cells, prokaryote DNA is present. That means the structures of the DNA in the prokaryotic cell is not like a today's DNA, right? It's like a circular shaped DNA is present in the prokaryotic cells. Okay, but in case of the eukaryotic cells, here DNA is present in double helical structure. structures. Okay. Prokaryotes organisms are very simplest organisms actually. They are mainly unicellular in nature. They are mainly unicellular. But in case of eukaryotic, they are unicellular as well as multicellular. Okay. So this is the some basic differences in between the prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. Example of prokaryotic cell. The best example of prokaryotic cell is like protozoans. Protozoans in which amoeba, paramecium, etc. Fine. They are the prokaryotics. Okay. Some bacteria also is here. Okay. Fungus, etc. Fine. And in the eukaryotic cell, all animal cell and plant cells. Fine. So these are the examples of the prokaryotic cells and the eukaryotic cells. One more thing is here. In the prokaryotic cells, we have discussed about the types of the ribosome, right? That means ribosome, which is called the protein factory of the cells, and there was a types of the ribosome like 70S ribosome and 80S ribosome. Fine. So in case of eukaryotic cells, the ribosome is found 70S ribosomes. 70S ribosomes are present. Fine. But in eukaryotic cells, both 70S and 80S ribosomes are present. Fine. Okay. So these are the basic distinguishes between the prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. Okay. Now come to our we have completed the chapter of cell structure and its functions. We have completed our chapter is the respiratory system, the very first system of the human system or human body. Now we will move on our next system, and this system is digestive system. Okay. Okay. So very interesting chapter actually. The digestive system is a very interesting chapter. And after the respiration, the understanding of the digestive system it get very easy. Why? Because in the digestion we use the oxygen. Okay. We use the oxygen for the digestion or oxidation of the carbohydrate, and we have already discussed that how the oxygen is taken from the outs of the body and how the carbon dioxide and oxygen both are exchanged together in the alveoli. So now here we have to discuss about the digestion, or we have to discuss the digestive system. What is the meaning of digestion? Firstly, we have to know that what is the meaning of digestion. What is digestion? Okay. In a very simple word, if we describe or if you define the word digestion, it means the breakdown, okay, the breakdown of a complex and larger food molecules into the simplest and smaller molecules is considered as the digestion. Okay, considered as the digestion. And in the human body, so many organs are also involved to facilitate the digestion process, and these organs is called the digestive organs, and the system is called the digestive system. That means the by which system the process of digestion occurs is called the digestive system. Okay, digestive organs are cooperate with each other actually. Okay, if they are producing some enzymes, if they are producing some hormones, but producing is okay, but they are coordinate with the another digestive organs. Okay, they are coordinate with the another organs, and then they utilize the produced enzymes and hormones, okay, for the digestion of the food material. Fine. So if we are talking about the digestion, so digestion you have already now very well known about the digestion. Okay, next is the what are the digestive materials. Okay, digestive materials. What are the digestive materials? That means the food, okay, we are taking, the food we are taking is considered as the digestive material. That means ki the digestion of food should be here. Okay, like food like carbohydrates, okay, fat molecules, fats and proteins, okay, some fibers also. ठीक, but here is the three basic food components are carbohydrates, fats and the proteins. Okay, they are digest in our body and they have their own significances. Okay, we will discuss in our nutrition class ki how the carbohydrates is helpful for us, how the fat is very important for us, and why protein is very required for our body growth. Fine. Okay, now come to this slide. This is a general, you can say, diagram of the digestive tract or system. Okay, system is also actually system is a very broad term actually, right? That means here is so many parts, so many organs, so many mechanisms are involved, then the system is created. Fine. Okay, you can see that there is mouth, and mouth is opening in the mouth cavity, which is also known as the oral cavity, also known as the buccal cavity. Buccal cavity. Fine. Then the buccal cavity is the buccal cavity. Okay, then this buccal cavity is further proceeds and it making some structures like this, and this structure is known as the pharynx. Okay, pharynx, and pharynx we have already discussed about the pharynx in the respiratory system, and we know that pharynx is the common passes for both food and air. Okay, in the respiratory system we have discussed already. Okay, this pharynx is further moving towards our abdomen, but this is the portion of the this muscular tubes, and this is known as the esophagus. The esophagus is opened in the stomach. Okay, and stomach is now further is converted into the small intestine, and here is the part of the small intestine. This is the duodenum, jejunum, and last one here is the ileum. Okay, ileum. Fine. Then here is some leaf like structures is also attached to the duodenum part of the small intestine, and the size of this leaf like structure is just your same as your palm. Okay, and weight is approx 50 to 60 gram. Fine. and this organ is called the pancreas. Fine, this is the pancreas, and here this is the last part of the intestine, ileum, is now converted and making the last part of the small intestine now converted into the large intestine, and this is the large intestine parts. So, colon is here, cecum is here, and this is the rectum and anus. A specific and a small muscular structures is attached with the cecum part of the large intestine, and which is called the appendix. Okay, which is called the appendix. From the mouth to the anus, from the mouth to the anus, a single canal is spread, which is named as alimentary canal, which is named as alimentary canal. Okay. Now here is the system of digestion. Digestion is the macromolecules which we have consumed in our food are not directly utilized by our body in its original form. Thus, they are subject to process called the digestion. Okay, and the system that helps in complete process of digestion by mechanical and biochemical method is called the digestive system. It's called the digestive system. Fine. Listen, when we are taking the food materials, okay, this paragraph is saying that when we are taking the food materials, taking our breads, rice, pulses, vegetables are not directly digested. Okay, why? Because they are actually macro in size. Okay, they are macro in size, and we need to break down them and converted them into the micro size. After the converting the micro size, they are able to absorb in our body, they are able to utilize by our body. Okay, so that process, the converting of the macromolecules in the micromolecules for the utilization by our body, okay, is considered as the digestion. Fine. That is the complete process of the digestion by the mechanical and biochemical methods is called the digestive system. Here some mechanical process and biochemical process both are involving, okay, for the digestion process. Okay, when we are taking the food material from outside and chewing in the buccal cavity or oral cavity, the food is firstly mixed with the saliva. Okay, mixed with the saliva, and when this is the mixed with the saliva, the food is called the bolus. Food is called the bolus. Okay, and this bolus is going through the esophagus, reach to the stomach, and here our stomach is releasing the gastric juices. Fine, gastric juices, and after mixing with the gastric juices, the bolus is converted into the chyme. The bolus is converted into the chyme, and this chyme is further ready to absorb by the some parts of the small intestine and the large intestine. Okay, and after the absorption of the food molecules or food materials, the waste products are remained, and these waste products are called the feces. Feces or stools. Okay, feces or stools which are excreted, which are passes out through the rectum or anus. Fine. So this is the process of degradation of the food materials. Firstly, the food is mixed with the saliva. Okay, food is mixed with the saliva and converted into the bolus. Then this bolus goes to the stomach and mixed with the gastric juice. Okay, and after the mixing with gastric juice, this is converted into the chyme. Fine, chyme, and this chyme, after the absorption, some waste products are remaining, and the waste products is called the feces, which is passes out from the body from anus or rectum in the form of stools. Okay, so the form of our food material is changed in this manner. Okay, fine. Now we have to discuss our organs and glands of the digestive system. Okay, here is very first organ. The very first organ is our alimentary canal. Which organ? Alimentary canal. Alimentary canal is about 8 to 10 meter in length. How can it be possible? No? Suppose the average height of a adult man is 5'8", 5'9". Fine. What? 5 feet 8 inches. Okay. But the length of alimentary canal is 8 to 10 meter. How can it fitted in our body? Yes, it fitted because this is muscular structures. This is flexible, and this fix in our body in the twisting manner actually. Okay. Some of the structures are very complexes. They are very complexes fitting. Okay. So the alimentary canal is length about 8 to 10 meters, begins with an anterior opening in mouth and is posterior to the anus. That means they are starting from the opening of mouth, which is called the buccal cavity. Okay, started from buccal cavity, fine, and ends with anus, ends with anus. Alimentary canals, various parts of alimentary canals. Fine. The first part is the mouth, opening of the alimentary canal. Here is the two soft movable lips on the mouth, you know very well, covered with skin on the outer side and lined with mucous membrane on the inner side. Mucous membrane is here because this mucus is responsible for the providing the water content, providing the moisture to our food materials. Fine. Second is the vestibule. Vestibules are what? It's a narrow space enclosed between the lips and cheeks internally and the gums and teeth internally. That means vestibules, that means this is the actually our, apart from this buccal cavity, all the things is available in the mouth is considered as the vestibules, like our gums, teeth, internal side. Fine. And they contain some mucous gland also. That means ki whenever the requirement of the moisturizer, requirement of the moisture is need in the body, then the mucous glands are secreted the mucus. Fine. The third one is the buccal cavity. That means the hollow space of the mouth. Okay. Beside teeth, gums, all. The hollow space of the mouth is called the buccal cavity. Contains teeth, tongue and salivary glands. Here is also two jaws. What is two jaws? Upper jaws and lower jaws. Two separate sequences of teeth are arranged in the jaws. Okay. In human beings, how much teeth are found? Here is 16 pairs. Right. 16 pairs, that means 32 in numbers. 32 tooth are found in the adult human body. Fine. So here is about the tooth. How many types of tooth are present? Actually 4 types of tooths are present. Which 4 types? The first one is the incisor, next one is the canine, premolar and molar. Suppose that this is the this is the upper jaw. Okay, upper jaw, and here in upper jaws, okay, there is 4 types of teeth are present. 4 types of teeth are present, but present in several minor or in different numbers. Okay, like this, the total number of teeth is equal to teeth on upper jaw by teeth on lower jaw. Fine. The types of teeth is the incisor, canine, premolar and molar, 4 types. Fine. They are present in the 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3 by same 2, 1, 2, 3. These are the pairs. Okay, that means the 2 pairs, and the sequence is like this: the 2 pair of incisor, 1 pair of canine, 2 pair of premolar and 3 pair of molar. Okay, 2 pair of incisor, 1 pair of canine, 2 pair of premolar and 3 pair of molar. Okay, incisor. This is the first one pair of teeth. Okay, present in 4 in numbers in each jaws. Fine. That means कि 2 pairs present on the upper jaw and 2 pairs present on the lower jaw. 2 pairs, that means number is 4. Okay. What is the function of the incisor? They are you can say that they are using to stretch anything, okay, from your mouth. Then you are something stretching through your teeth, you are using this incisor. Also used for the cutting also. Okay, when we are eating the apple, when we are eating anything, so firstly we have to cut that from our incisor tooth. Okay, and the in upper jaw, the first four tooths, or the front 4 tooths are the incisor. Second, the 2 pairs of the canine are present. Okay, 1 pair, that means 2 in numbers, are present, canine. Next one is the premolar, and last one is the molar. Premolar and molar. So here is 8 pair in upper jaw and 8 pair in lower jaw. That means multiplied by 2, upper jaw 16 and lower jaw is 16. It's a total number of tooth is the 32. Fine. Okay, fine. So this is the tooth arrangement of human beings. Fine. Here's types of tooth is also, the types of tooth we can understand by this. There is some another types like homodont. Okay, what are the homodont? Homo, that means same. Okay, this is the homo, that means same. A don't is related to the dentals or related to our teeth. That means the same, the teeth are same, is considered as the homodont. All the teeth are same types. Example, fishes. Okay, fishes example, if you have watched a movie name is Piranha. Okay, in the Piranha movies, the piranha fishes are there, and you can easily watch that they are in the piranha's mouth. There some so many teeth are found in their mouth, but they are very similar in nature. Okay, they are very similar in nature. So the teeth of the fishes is considered as the homodont. Okay, next is the heterodont. That means different types of teeth are present. Okay, like human beings. Okay, how these are the different types. That means the first one is the incisor, second is the canine, then premolar, then molar, and the types of the teeth also also describing the division in the functions of the teeth also. Fine. That means canine is responsible for the particular functions which do not carried out by the premolar or molar or incisor. Fine. So their functions are different, their structures are different also. Okay. So these are called the heterodont. Example is, very best example is human beings. After that so many mammals also. Okay, mammals. Fine. They also contain the heterodonts. Next one is the enamel. What is the enamel? This is the outermost shining layer, is the hardest substances in the human body. This is a question actually. Okay. In so many times and so many examinations, the question is asked, the hardest substance found in the human body is what? Okay, and there is enamel is the correct answer. So please remember this. Next one is the cement layer. Cement layer is the outermost layer in the neck and root region of the teeth. Okay, fine. So this is called the cement layer. Next, the pulp cavity. The cavity in the center of tooth containing pulp, mass of cells, blood vessels, lymph vessels and nerves. That means the supply of the blood to the tooth is carried out by these pulp cavities. In the conditions of the infection in the tooth, when the pulp cavities is infected by the bacteria or some another pathogens, some microbes, then this pulp cavities is engulfed by them and they making a hollow cavity, and now the dentist is considered and dentist is said to you that you have suffered with the cavity in your tooth. Okay, fine. So this is the cavity. This is naturally present, but pulps are present here, or in the pulse the mass of cells, blood vessels, lymph vessels and nerves are also present, but in the case of the infections all get the destroyed and making a hollow cavity, and this is considered as the cavity in the tooth. Fine. Okay, and next one is the dentine. What is the dentine? So dentine is the hard ivory like the substances which surrounded in pulp cavity is called the dentine. Okay, tongue की बात करते हैं. When we are talking about the tongues, when you are talking about the tongue, okay, tongue is basically a muscular structure which is present in the buccal cavity, and the first part of here you can say that the fore part of the tongue is freely movable, and last part of the tongue, or you can say the inferior part of the tongue, is attached with the bottom of buccal cavity. Okay, highly muscular organ containing voluntary muscles attached to the floor of buccal cavity. Okay, which type of muscles are found? Voluntary muscles. What is the voluntary muscles? Voluntary muscles are those muscles which can be regulated and controlled by yourselves. Okay, when you want to move them, you move them. When you want to stop them, you can stop. Okay, so these are the called the voluntary muscles. Thick. With the help of connective tissue, frenulum, lingua. Okay, suppose that this is our tongue. Okay, our tongue. This is the bottom of buccal cavity. Fine. Here is in the lower side of the tongues. Whenever you try to observe your tongues, you open your mouth and just observe that there is a line. Okay, there is a line in between the tongues which is attached to the bottom of this buccal cavity, and this is a specific types of muscles actually. Okay, this one from the lower side, this is attached, and this is the actually a muscles type. Okay, and these muscles is created by a connective tissues, and name is the frenulum linguae. Name is the frenulum linguae. Okay, frenulum linguae. So this one is the frenulum linguae. Fine. Taste buds are present, okay, at the surface of the tongue, okay, to realize food taste like sweet, bitter, salt and sour. If we are dividing like this, 1 minute. So if we are talking about okay, suppose this is the tongue, okay. If you are talking about the taste on the tongues, or you can say taste surfaces of the tongues, when we studied about this, we can divide it into some regions, okay. The front part of the tongue, the front part of the tongue is for the sweet taste, okay. The front, okay, the you can say the first half part of the lateral side, is responsible for the salty taste, okay, salty taste, fine. And the second part of the lateral side, this one, okay, these both, these are responsible for the sour. This is the sour taste. This one is also the sour taste. So hodgepodge. This is the sweet, the salty, this is the sour, also this is for the sour taste, this is also for the salty, and last one is for the bitter taste. Fine. The front part of the tongue is responsible for the taking the senses of sweet taste, okay. The first or the front part of the lateral side is responsible for the salty, and the second part, yeah, you can say the hind part of the lateral side is responsible for the sour, and last part of the tongue is responsible for the bitter taste. In the middle surface of the tongue, there is no taste bud is available. There is no taste bud are available. That's why they do not take senses of any taste. Fine. They do not take the senses of any taste. That means the middle part of the tongue is completely neutral, okay. You can check it out by doing this practical on your own tongue, okay. Fine. So next one is the what is the function of the tongue? So helps in tasting and swallowing of foods, also helps in the process of speech and masticating the food by mixing saliva in it. That means the first part is the freely movable, right? Freely movable, okay. Freely movable, that means it facilitate the mixing, okay, or mastication of food with saliva. Fine, mastication of the food with saliva, and also helps in tasting by the taste buds, fine. Swallowing foods, obviously the mastication premolar, so it also facilitate the swallowing of the food material, fine. So these are the functions of tongues. Next one is the next part of the alimentary canal is pharynx, okay. This is the pharynx. Pharynx is what? Nothing, we have already discussed, and here is also given the common passage for both air and food. So during swallowing of food, epiglottis covered the trachea to prevent the entry of food into the trachea. You know that we have discussed in the respiratory system, the pharynx is further opening into the larynx, and larynx is called the what? Larynx is called the voice box, okay. So many vocal cords are available there, but in case of the digestion, when the food or water is engulfing or intaking by the alimentary canal, the structure is found in the pharynx named the epiglottis, and epiglottis is covered the trachea to prevent the entry food into the trachea. That's why when we are taking the food, when we are taking the water, then it goes to the stomach, not in the lungs, okay. Why? Because this epiglottis is covered the opening of the trachea or windpipe, fine. So this is the pharynx, and this is the work of pharynx, function of pharynx. The size is approximately 12 centimeter longs, fine. Next one is the esophagus. Esophagus, this is a 23 to 27 centimeter. This is the 23 to 27 centimeter long, opens into the stomach, opening is called the gullet, that means the esophagus is where opens, that was the stomach part, okay, and that part, that opening part of the esophagus is called the gullet, fine. Next one is here is some mucus gland is also found at the esophagus. Mucus glands also found on the wall of the esophagus, helps in the forward movement of food. That means the mucus layer or mucosa is helping the movement of food by the peristalsis movement. Okay. Why this peristalsis movement is happens? Okay, very important point is that why, or how the peristalsis movement occurs. Okay, if we are talking about our alimentary canal, then we observe that there is so many layers. Are found in our alimentary canals. Okay, when we taking the food materials in the form of bolus, we find that this shifting and the contraction of the layers of the alimentary canal is enhancing or facilitate the movement of food. Okay, the movement of food, that means the different layers of the alimentary canal is responsible for the peristalsis movement in the alimentary canal, and this peristalsis movement is helping the movement of the food, and this is forwarding the food from our pharynx to our stomach to our intestine, fine. Okay. What is the function of esophagus? It transfers foods from the pharynx to the stomach. Okay. Now the stomach. The next part is the stomach. Fine. Stomach. This is the actually J shaped. Fine. Suppose that this is the like this. Okay. It's a kind of J shaped. Okay. So J shaped organs which just break up food and mix the pieces with gastric juices. Okay. The stomach is a part of alimentary canal which is open from the esophagus, and now this is open to the small intestine. Okay. This is a muscular part, this is a like a bag like structure. Okay. And what is the function of stomach? It breaks up the foods and mix the pieces with the gastric juice. Actually the stomach is secreted the gastric juice. Okay. The gastric juice is containing so many things, so many enzymes are present in the gastric juice, water molecules are present also in the gastric juice. Okay. And these constituents, or you can say the enzymes, the coenzymes and the proenzymes also present in the gastric juice, which is enhances the breakdown of the food material. That means it enhances or facilitates the conversion of the large molecules of the, or you can say the macromolecules of the food material in the micromolecules. Fine. So here is some enzymes are given like the renin, pepsin and HCl. Fine. So renin, pepsin and HCl. So now we will discuss further what is the function of renin, why the pepsin is used, and what are the functions of the HCl. But we are only just talking about the mechanical process. Okay, mechanical process. After this, we will discuss about the biochemical process. Okay, biochemical process. And we know that without these both two process, the completion of the digestion is not happen. Okay. Okay, move. There is three major parts of the stomach is given. The first is the cardiac part. This is the upper portion. That means esophagus opens in this part. Okay, esophagus opens in this part. Very first slide was showing the digestive tract actually. Okay, so you can see from there. Next, B is the fundic part. This is the middle portion. This is the middle portion of the stomach. And C1 is the pyloric part. This is the lower portion, opens into the small intestine, and you can say the first part of the small intestine, that is duodenum. Fine. Now the pyloric part of the stomach is guarded by a pyloric sphincter. Okay. The pyloric sphincter is nothing, it's a kind of valve. It's a kind of valve. That means after sometimes when the valve is open, the food is, or you can say the chyme is goes into the intestine. So this pyloric sphincter not allowed to come back the chyme from the intestine to the stomach again. Okay. So this is the function. What is the functions of the stomach? A short-term reservoir of food. Food become liquefied before being released into the small intestine. That means when the bolus is reached in stomach. Okay, mixed up with the gastric juice. Okay, and converted the liquid macromolecules, and name is the chyme. That means कि when the food is, or you can say the bolus is converted into the chyme, then it released into the small intestine from the stomach. Okay. Now come to the intestines. Okay, come to the intestines. Fine. Intestines. Intestines, actually in our body there is two types of intestine is found. Okay, the intestine is classified on the basis of the diameter of the inner wall of the intestine, and we know that two types of intestine are found in our body. The first one is the small intestine and second one is the large intestine. Okay, a small intestine is approx 6 meter long, and this is the longest part of alimentary canal. If we are talking about the whole alimentary canal from mouth to anus, okay, then we found that the small intestine is the largest part of the alimentary canal. Fine. Here is three main parts of the small intestine. The first part is the duodenum. Okay, the first part is the duodenum. This is U-shaped part. It's about 25 centimeter long, and this is the widest part. Okay, duodenum is the widest part. Why this is the widest? Because when the chyme is travel from the stomach to the intestine, a fixed amount, or you can say a greater amount of the chyme is forwarding towards the small intestine. So there is a need of a you can say dilated diameters range. Fine, dilated diameters is very needful for here. So that's why our nature is making this part is widest. Okay, the second was the jejunum. Jejunum is the middle part of the small intestine, and which is the 2.5 centimeter long. Okay, and diameter is about 4 centimeter of the jejunum. And third part is the ileum part. This is the last part. So diameter is 3.5 centimeter. So longest part of the small intestine. That means if you are talking, this is the duodenum is a 25 centimeter long. Okay, and jejunum is a 2.5 meter long. Okay, and we know that complete 6 meter long, no? Right, 6 meter. That means approx 3.25 meter long approx. Okay, that means the length of the ileum is the approx 3.25 meter. Okay, and the diameter is 3.5 centimeter. And this is ileum. Ileum is the longest part of the small intestine, and this opens into the colon of large intestine. Colon are the large intestine. What are the functions of the small intestine? Here is the functions. Okay, complete digestion of the components like proteins, carbohydrate, nucleic acid and fats. Okay, that means in the small intestine the digestion takes place completely. Okay, dear friends, when we talking that from where or from which part of the alimentary canal the digestion is started, so this is the question actually. Okay, and so many times this type of questions are asking in the various examinations, and it's a very simple question. When we are talking about the buccal cavity, then we studied there so many salivary glands are found. Okay, these glands are responsible for the production of some enzymes. Okay, we will have to be discussed. Okay, from here. Now after the completion of this mechanical process, we will discuss about the biochemical process, and in the glands of the digestive system we have to discuss. Okay, but listen, when we are talking from where the process of digestion is started or begins, then in the salivary glands so many enzymes are found. In the saliva so many enzymes are present, like the salivary amylase. Okay, amylase is responsible for the breakdown of the carbohydrate, or you can say the enzyme amylase is responsible for the digestion of carbohydrate. So I can say that, yeah, we can say that the process of digestion is started from the buccal cavity. Okay, so you can say digestion is begins from buccal cavity. Fine. Okay. Okay, right. Oh, complete digestion of the components like the protein, carbohydrates, nucleic acid and fats. Okay, that means the small intestine is the major sites of the digestion of food. Major sites in digestion of the food, the small intestine playing a vital, or you can say very utility role. Okay, absorbs the nutrients into the blood and lymph, and also helps in the absorption of fats. Okay, villi and microvilli. Okay, villi or microvilli. What are the villi and what are the microvilli? Actually, at the inner surface, you can say the inner structure of the small intestine, there is so many small, you can say there is so many smaller muscular tiny particles, yeah, tiny sized parts are present, and they are approx 1 millimeter in length. Okay, so these are the considered as the villi. And what are the functions of the villi and the microvilli? Actually they are enhancing the surface area of the small intestine. Okay, and after enhancing the surface area of small intestine, the chances of contact of food to the wall of the small intestine increases. Okay, that means there is more surface is available to contacting with the food materials, and it is facilitate the absorptions of the food materials from the small intestine. So these are the villi and microvilli, and this is the functions of the villi and the microvilli. Villi is the inner mucosa layer of the small intestine, has villi, and it's about 1 millimeter in height. Okay, 1 millimeter in height. Microvilli is produced by the cell lining of villi, increase the surface area. Fine. Increase the surface area of intestine. Okay, increase the surface area of the intestine. So here is small intestine is very most important parts of the alimentary canal. We can observe that it is responsible for the most of the food materials digestion, and apart from this is also helpful for the digestion, for the absorption of the food materials as well. Okay, absorption from the intestine to the blood. Now come to the next part, or you can say the last part of the alimentary canal, and this is the large intestine. Okay, large intestine, this is the about 1.5 meter long. Okay, so 1.5 meter long. It's a shorter, but diameter is larger than small intestine. Okay, this is shorter, that means what was the length of small intestine? Small intestine, so about 6 meter long. Okay, so the large intestine is shorter, but diameter is larger than the small intestine. That means they are very dilated. Okay, diameter is very long, but length is obviously shorter than the small intestine. So 3 main parts is also available in the large intestine. The first part is the cecum. Okay, the first part is the cecum. So small pouches like structure about 6 centimeter outgrowth, about 6 centimeter outgrowth. When we are looking toward the first slide, okay, when we are looking toward the first slide, we have seen that there was a basic structure of the digestive system, and in that structure, in that diagram, the cecum part is the lowest part of the large intestine, and this is very small pouch like structure, about 6 centimeter long, and the outgrowth known as the vermiform appendix. That means here was this was the cecum, okay, and this is the outgrowth of the cecum and known as the appendix, okay, known as the appendix. What are the use of appendix in the body? Nowadays the appendix is remaining in the human body is inert form, okay, but in earlier the appendix was used for the digestion of raw meat, digestion of you can say cellulose, digestion of the raw meat protein also. So in earlier days, but now the appendix is in inert form, okay, inert form. So it is deactivated now, and now this is not useful in the digestion. This is not participating in the digestion now, okay. The next part is of the large intestine is the colon, okay. Cecum leads into the colon. Actually, where the cecum is end, the colon is started, okay. The colon is started like this, okay, and colon is also divided into three parts, okay. From cecum, the upward directions colon is called the ascending colon. Which colon? Ascending colon. Then this one transverse colon, okay, or horizontal colon. This one is the horizontal, and when the colon is in the downward motion or downward direction, then colon is called the descending colon, okay. So colon is also three parts. Cecum leads into the colon, and three main parts are ascending, descending, and the transverse colon, okay. So there is three parts of the colon, fine. Now the next part of the large intestine is the rectum. Next part is the rectum. This is the last part of the intestine. The 20 centimeter in length opens into the anus. That means the rectum part is responsible. The rectum part is responsible for the actually excretion. You can say the outsided passing, okay, outsided passing of the feces from the large intestine is leads by the rectum, and the feces is passes to the anus, and the anus is opening the outsided, fine. So cecum is passes from the body, okay, through rectum and the anus, fine. What are the functions of the large intestine? The functions of the large intestine. First one is the absorption of water and the nutrients and elimination solid wastage takes place mainly in large intestine, okay. That means when the mostly absorbed, okay, material is reached into the large intestine, the reabsorption takes place, okay. But the reabsorption for what? The reabsorption of water and the nutrients. Some water molecules and some nutrients are remaining from after absorption from the small intestine, and they reached into the large intestine, and from there in the large intestine the absorption of the water and remaining nutrients takes place, and the another solid materials or solid waste are remain, and they are eliminated from the large intestine, and they are excreted out like feces, like stools from our body, okay, and they are considered as the waste material. Now Now we have to discuss the major and most important parts of the digestive system, and these are the digestive glands. Okay, we have till now we have completed our the mechanical portion of the digestive system. Okay, but here we have to cover, we have to discuss about the biochemical process of the digestive biochemical process of the digestion. Fine. For the biochemical processes, so many types of enzymes, so many types of proenzymes, some of the acids, some of the bases, some of the material substances which is enhances the breakdown of the fats, proteins, carbohydrates are available. Okay, and they are very useful for the biochemical process of the digestive system. Okay, or digestion. Fine. So the enzymes, the chemicals, the acids are producing by the specific glands actually. Okay, and so we have to discuss about the digestive glands. Fine. The very first digestive gland is the salivary gland or mouth watering glands. Okay, actually when we are thinking about something very tasty, then we observe that there is a water in our mouth. Okay, like that the people have said that मुंह में पानी आ जाना something है ना. So why this is happening, why this the watering is happening in our body? This is actually cephalic digestion process. Okay, this is actually cephalic digestion. Cephalic digestion is always by the thoughts. Okay, when we are thinking about golgappa and pani puri, fine. So the water is releasing in our mouth. Okay, the saliva is releasing in our mouth. When we feel, one more thing, when we feel to eat something, when we think to eat something, in our stomach the secretion of HCl, hydrochloric acid, is also increases. Okay, so these are the cephalic digestion actually. They are taking the senses, and after that the digestion is started. Fine. Okay. So in the salivary or mouth watering gland, they are actually exocrine glands. Okay, in the endocrine systems, here you can say in the gland system we will discuss about the exocrine gland and endocrine glands, but here in a very brief manner you have to know that what are the exocrine glands. Exocrine glands are those glands which have the ducts actually. That means the secreted fluids are flowing through a special ducts of the glands. That means these are called the ductful glands, duct glands. Okay, and they are always secreted the enzymes. They are always secreted the enzymes. Okay, enzymes are what? What are the enzymes? Actually enzymes. Okay, enzymes are the biocatalyst. Sorry, enzymes are the biocatalyst. What is the catalyst? Catalyst are the reagent, okay, which involve in any chemical process. Listen carefully. Which involves in any chemical process, but they do not change their chemical structures, they do not change their property, but enhances the rate of the reactions. Okay, that means catalysts are those which enhances the rate of reactions without changing themselves, are considered as the catalyst. And biocatalysts, that means they are not formed in the laboratory. No, they are not made in the laboratory. They are produced in our body. Okay, and in the so many biochemical processes, the biocatalyst or enzymes is responsible to enhancing the rate of the reactions. Fine. So this is the biocatalyst and it is considered as the enzymes. Okay. So enzymes is secreted from the exocrine glands. Okay. In man there are 3 pairs of the salivary glands. Okay, how many pairs? There are 3 pairs of the salivary gland. The first pair is called the parotid gland, then sublingual gland and submandibular gland. Okay, parotid gland, sublingual gland and submandibular glands. The 3 types of the glands or salivary glands are present in our mouth. Okay, this is the parotid gland. Parotid gland, that means the lower surface of our bottom of the buccal cavity. Okay, sublinguals just beneath of our tongue. Okay, and submandibular in between the cheeks and jaw. In between the cheeks and jaw, the submandibulars are present, and they are producing the saliva. Okay, they are secreting the saliva. In saliva, the pH of the saliva is 6.8, 6.8, and this is the slightly acidic fluid, Okay, now here is one word is also, this is the pH. What is the pH? What do you understand by pH? Sorry. Okay, pH. The pH value of any fluid or any substances is indicating the nature of that fluid or substances. Okay, that means every fluid and substances are always is 3 in nature. That means the nature of that fluid either acidic or basic, or maybe neutral also. Okay, acidic, basic and neutral. Okay, when we are talking about the pH value, so firstly we have to understand what is the pH scale. What is the pH scale? Okay, what is the pH scale? The pH scale is from 0 to 14 value. It is having 0 to 14 value. The middle value is 7. Okay, the middle value is 7. Any substances which have the pH value of 7, that means the substance is the salt or neutral in nature. These are the salt or neutral. But when this is less than 7, these are the acidic in nature. These are the acidic in nature. But when it is more than 7, it is the basic in nature. Okay, that means less than 7 is acidic and more than 7 is the basic. Okay, so here the statement is that saliva is slightly acidic fluid. Okay, acidic fluid, that means the pH is 6.8, it's a less than 7, something here, 6.8. Okay, remember one thing, from 0 to 7 we are in increasing order, then we are decreases the acidic nature. Okay, from 0 to 7. Okay, when we reached at the 7, that means the salt or the liquid is neutral or salt in nature. Okay, when we are moving from the 7 to 14, we are increasing the basic nature. Fine. So saliva is 6.8, that means this is the between 0 to 7, that means this is the acidic fluid. Okay, this is the mixture of water, electrolytes, okay, and enzymes like amylase. One thing, there is one more question also available. Question is that in examination the question asked that our food is digested firstly in which medium. Okay, listen carefully, the question is that our food is digested in our body in which medium. Okay, that medium, that means which medium is responsible for the beginning of the digestion. Fine, that medium which is responsible for the beginning of the digestion process. Listen, this is very simple question, and we know that when we are taking the food in our buccal cavity, the saliva are released. Okay, the saliva is released, and saliva is acidic in nature. Okay, acidic in nature. That means the food is firstly, or you can say the digestion of food is begins firstly acidic nature. Okay, acidic nature. Fine. Now, what are the mixture, what are the constituents of the saliva? So here mixture of water, then so many electrolytes like sodium positive ion, potassium positive ion, chlorine positive ion, or HCO3 negative. Okay, SCO3 negative, and enzymes like this is the salivary amylase. Okay, salivary amylase. What is the amylase? Amylase is an enzyme. Amylase is an enzyme which is responsible for the digestion of carbohydrates. Digestion of carbohydrates. That means amylase is going to break down to carbohydrate molecules. Okay. In saliva, amylase which is also called the ptyalin. Okay, salivary ptyalin, salivary amylase or ptyalin. Okay, and lysozyme is also present. What are the lysozymes? Lysozymes is also an enzymes which have the antibacterial tendency. Whenever we are taking food, the food is not as much as safe. Okay, so the chances of the presence of the microbes or any pathogens are also in our food. So these lysozymes, which is a constituents of the saliva, is mixing with the food, and if the bacteria or any pathogens, microbial agents are present in our food, then it kills the microbes and the bacteria. Fine. Why? Because the lysozyme is antibacterial in nature. This is also a question. Okay. In the papers, in the examination, the question was that which enzymes are present in the saliva have the tendency of antibacterial. Okay. So the answer is the lysozyme. Okay, fine. So these all are about our saliva. Mixing with saliva of food is considered as the bolus. Fine. Okay. Now the next glands, we have completed salivary glands. Our next gland is the gastric glands. Okay. Now the food is become bolus after mixing the saliva and passes from the buccal cavity through the via pharynx reach to the esophagus, and esophagus is facilitate the peristalsis movement of the bolus, and now bolus is reached into the stomach. Bolus is reached into the stomach. In stomach, so many glands are there, and the stomach glands, the glands present in the stomach is called the gastric glands. It's called the gastric glands. These are the glands of the stomach. Okay. Here the gastric glands have the three major types of the cells. Okay. That means the some specific types of cells are present for the producing some specific types of the substances. Okay. Some cells are here which producing the mucus, some cells are here which producing the HCl, some cells are here which producing the several enzymes. Okay. And these enzymes, HCl, mucus, all are playing a very vital important role in the biochemical process of the digestion. Fine. So first cell is the chief cells or peptic cells. Okay. What are the chief cells or peptic cells? It secretes inactive precursor of gastric enzymes. Inactive precursor of gastric enzymes. What are the inactive precursor? Active precursor and inactive precursor. Listen. Inactive precursor. Okay. Inactive precursor. Fine. That means they are not active. This is inactive form. Firstly, when it secretes from the cells, they changed into the active precursor form. Okay. And after changing in active form, they are useful for the reactions. Okay. Like if we have so many precursors, you can say inactive precursors in our digestive system. If we are talking, then we have a inactive precursor name is the chymotrypsinogen. Chymotrypsinogen. But this is not a gastric juice precursor. Please remember, this is not a gastric juice precursor. This is the pancreatic juice precursor. I am just giving an example. Fine. I am giving, this is the chymotrypsinogen. I am just giving an example. Please remember, this is the pancreatic juice precursor, not the gastric juice precursor. Okay. So this chymotrypsinogen is converted into the chymotrypsin, Okay. Now the chymotrypsin is a active precursor, which is converting the breakdown of the protein. Okay, that means they are responsible for the breakdown of the proteins. They are converting the proteins in the polypeptides in the amino acids. Like, okay, we will discuss in the pancreatic juice. But this is the example of the chymotrypsinogen. That means inactive precursor. Fine. Okay. Now the second cell of the gastric glands are the oxantic cells. Okay. Oxantic cells are responsible for the secretion of HCl. HCl is a very strong acid actually. Okay. This is also called the hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid. Fine. So hydrochloric acid is a strong acid. What is the use of the strong acid? What is the use of this strong acid in our digestion? Actually, this strong acid is responsible, or you can say useful, by two ways. The first use of this HCl is that the acidic nature, or you can say the strong acidic nature, is enhances the breakdown of the food particles, food macromolecules. Fine. And second is that the HCl is also useful to kill the bacteria or pathogens, because this is strong in nature, so it can easily kill the bacteria. Okay. And so our gastric glands, specific cells, oxantic cells, releases the strong HCl. This is the hydrochloric acid. Fine. So this is the use of HCl. As last one of the cell of the gastric gland is the mucus cells, or this is also called the goblet cells. Okay. So goblet cells or mucus cells is responsible for the secretion of alkaline null cells, and this is secreted the mucus. Okay, this is secreted the mucus. Why mucus? Mucus is very you can say a moisturized viscous solution. Okay, it mixed with the bolus and make it moisture. Okay. And then when the bolus is get moisture, then it is easy to break down. It is easy to break down in the micromolecules, and the property you can say on the functions of the enzymes get enhances. Okay. So how? Because we know that the small particles of the any substances is enhancing the surface area. Okay. So surface area get increased, that the rate of the reactions by the enzymes get increases. So the breakdown or digestion of the molecules get enhances. Fine. Okay. Now we will discuss about the gastric juice. So this is the gastric juice secreted by the gastric glands. Okay, gastric juice. So pH is 1.5 to 2.5. 1.5 to 2.5. That means कि HCl is very strong in the gastric juice. Okay, so HCl is very strong in gastric juice and contains some enzymes. Okay, these are actually this enzymes topics of the gastric juice is a time taking topics. Fine. So today time is the over. So we will discuss further this topic from tomorrow. Okay. So please read this at least once a time before attending the next class. So the all the scenario will be very clear for you. Okay. Thank you so much and hope you guys will enjoy this session. Thank you so much. Bye bye and take care.